Well, SmackDown just rocked instantly, didn't it? Blimey. That was me rocking. Also, hello and welcome to Ups and Downs, the wrestling review show with me, Simon Miller, where I watch wrestling so you don't have to. Although, seriously, if you ain't watching SmackDown right now, you absolutely should. Because it began with Paul Heyman already in the ring, and I started cracking up, because he was stood there with both WWE World titles, meaning if you'd never watched WWE before and tuned in, you'd be like, oh, this small balding guy is the world champion. And you know what? Someday we should do it. I'm serious. He told us that he was about to give us some spoilers, though, especially because when it comes to Roman Reigns, not only is he under attack on Raw, but he's also under attack on Friday nights. This is actually when I stared off into the distance and thought to myself, oh yeah, that's actually pretty cool. He is a double champion. This is how it should work. He then turned to the fans and asked if they actually thought Sami Zayn could be the WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. And of course, they all cheered. So now I'm just going to look off into the distance and dream, because I don't think it's going to happen. Heyman then laughed that off and also gave us our first spoiler. Sami Zayn isn't here tonight. And I was like, yeah, whatever, what do you know? When he turned his attention to Cody Rhodes, and he basically insulted him too. He was like, oh, on Monday, the American Nightmare was coming out here and being all like, it's not personal for me, it's just about the belts. Dusty must have raised an idiot. Shots fired. Heyman was also very clear to mention that without these championships, there is no bloodline, so put that in your brain, and like a telltale game, remember it. When, of course, who appeared behind him? Doink the Clown. Can you imagine? If it was Doink the Clown, I would have fallen on the floor. It was Sami Zayn. He told Paul that Reigns' days as champion are over, and then started to go, look at you. You're here by yourself. Where are the Usos? Where's Solo Sikoa? If this was a couple of weeks ago, they would have been all over me by now, but the bloodline is falling into the mush pit, and everyone is doomed. He also predicted that Solo will go off by himself, and the Usos ain't going to be hanging out with their cousin when they're at home, because he's crazy. And then was like, what's your deal as well, Mr. Heyman? The way you look at the head of the table, it's kind of weird. Quite funny. Sami then promised that he would be successful at the Elimination Chamber premium live event. And as I don't think he actually is going to be successful, it's always worrying when a babyface does do that. When he hugged Paul Heyman and was all like, listen, you don't have to worry about Cody, because I'm going to beat Roman before that. Everyone is screwed. This was awesome though, and Paul Heyman has to be the MVP of the week, because that's now 2 phenomenal speeches he's given. Almost like he's pretty good at this stuff. And in even better news, this was just the first segment of many focusing on the bloodline, the best story in wrestling. And then Drew McIntyre and Sheamus destroyed Hit Row. So I'm completely speculating here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hit Row absolutely must have pissed somebody off. We did see them earlier in the day moaning to Adam Pearce, going, man, Braun Strowman and Ricochet shouldn't have been in the tag team tournament. It really threw us off our game. So Adam was like, all right, good point. You were meant to fight the Scotsman and the Irishman, so you can do it. He didn't play a trumpet. Tonight. Ashanti the Adonis and Top Dollar must have regretted this too, because honestly, 2 minutes, Top Dollar didn't even tag in. And when Wade Barrett mentioned that on commentary, Michael Cole was like, it's a good thing he didn't tag in, because they would have lost even sooner. When the Adonis got Claymore kicked, he got Broad kicked. 1, 2, 3. Done. I mean, it was so easy, I think I could have beaten them. And straight after this, a Viking Raiders video played. And as always, just like, oh, we're Vikings, we're going to come and pillage your town. It's like, what town are you even talking about? But we are going to do that match next week. And look, I tell you, I was perfectly cool with this, because the rumor is that Drew and Sheamus may be taking on Gunther in a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Big men slapping man meat, but it does mean beforehand, we've got to power them up like He-Man. Therefore, it's getting it up. And it was more bloodline stuff next. Yes. For we saw Jimmy Uso in the back trying to call his brother Jay, and I like to think he did nothing for a week, and then he got to SmackDown and was like, oh yeah, we've got to have a tag team match. I better give him a buzz. We also saw a bunch of inset videos throughout the next match where he kept trying, and I was like, Jimmy, this was your plan to get to the arena and just spam your brother? Why didn't you go to his house in the week and have a chat with him, you absolute goober? Still, this was really good because it tied into everything else. When we had one of these black and white videos with Karrion, Kross, and Scarlett. Karrion was all like, man, I'm going to kill you, Rey Mysterio, because they are part of the Fatal 4-Way later to crown a number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. And then he looked at Scarlett, and it kind of looked like they were about to kiss. Don't get mad at me. I am just documenting you what I saw with my eyes. It was a little bit odd. And then, well, much like my relationship with hair, this hasn't worked out very well, has it? Before it was time for Lacey Evans, and look, I like Lacey Evans. I really like that Southern Belle character that we should probably go back to, but she came out here to do her new gimmick, which is just, I really like the Cobra Clutch. And that's it. That's the depth of this thing. If you try to dive into it, you crack your head open. He was also facing Carmen Harris, I think her name was, or maybe Carmen Paris, but it doesn't matter, because once again it went 2 minutes. She did get locked in the Cobra Clutch, which apparently is a terrifying maneuver that you want to stay away from. She tapped out, we were done. So basically, this is totally directionless, to the point if somebody came in right now and put a gun to my head, I'd be like, yeah, you're right, maybe we do have to hit reset again, but we can't hit reset again, because we just hit reset. So very sadly, when I do search my feelings like a Jedi, we gotta give it a down. There's just nothing here. It was back to the Jimmy Uso phone call dilemma after this. And as it turned out, he just kept on trying. I guess he thought it would work. Paul Heyman was also there though, and this time he was like, listen, Jim Bob, I just need to talk to you for 1 second. I was out there with a Canadian psychopath and nobody came to my aid. What's going on? Once again, Jim was like, the phone, man, the phone. I gotta worry about my tag team match. Given that everybody else was away, including Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, Jimmy then said, hey, Paul, you can be my tag team partner, which ties into what we talked about a few minutes ago. But of course, Heyman said, no, you're on your own, and he waddled off. Coolest thing about all of this is that you start to go, maybe Sami is right, maybe they are falling apart, and naturally we had the tease, well, is Jey Uso gonna turn up, or isn't he? So look, this only went about 3 or 4 minutes, but I don't care. I'm in love with this. I want to marry it up. Sonya Deville was then mad again because she found Adam Pearce and she was like, I think I should be in the Elimination Chamber. And as he said, what are you You had a title match last week and you didn't do anything with it. This is when Chelsea Green turned up and demanded to talk to the SmackDown manager to complain about the Raw manager. And when Adam told her, I'm both of them, Chelsea's face was absolutely brilliant. I'm a big fan of this character. She then went on to say she has facial amnesia or something, so I don't understand what's going on. And for no reason whatsoever, Adam Pearce went, right, here's what's gonna happen. You two are annoying me, so you're gonna team up and take on Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. This was absolutely my face. Roll it.
Ever wonder why TikTokers have a clip mic such as this one, and rather clip it to themselves, they hold it in their hand when interviewing people? Well, much like professional wrestling, sometimes stuff just happens.
But if you and your loved ones are struggling with sports entertainment, remember, you can call us at 0800 Stuff Just Happens. Someone is always waiting to take your call. Or maybe not, because sometimes stuff just happens.
I was then super surprised after this because it was time for our tag team title match, but it wasn't the main event. I was convinced. It also meant that it was Ricochet and Braun Strowman taking on the Usos, but of course, Jey Uso was nowhere to be seen, to the point when we got the ring announcement, it was like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? It's Braun Strowman and Ricochet, and their opponent defending the championships by himself is Jimmy Uso. So he instantly became a babyface because what a badass. From nowhere, however, he then pointed towards the crowd, and at first I thought he'd gone crazy, but no. Using his twin power in his tum-tum, he knew that Jey Uso was coming down through the fans. He got in the ring, and everybody cheered. This bloodline, they ain't bad guys, they ain't good guys, they're just the guys. It also meant that Jey and Ricochet started off before Braun and Rick came together to just throw everyone on the floor. The whole time, Braun was just going, raw, which he loves to do. Ricochet also did a standing moonsault like it's a perfectly easy thing to pull off, which it's not, when Strowman got the hot tag. And his whole offense is just mowing people down, but it works. He was also smashing people in the corner like he wanted them to explode. When Jey Uso actually low-bridged him, he went to the floor, and he followed up with a massive super kick. Ricochet then realized he could probably knee Jim in the face, which he did do. Then Braun grabbed him and power slammed him, which led to that finish when Ricochet stands on Braun's shoulders and hit the Swanton Bomb. And honestly, at the last second, the Usos broke it up. 1-2, ooh. We then used Arkham Asylum tactics as Braun Strowman was on the outside being a choo-choo train. And even though he was going to kill Jey Uso, he just moved out the way, so Braun went into out of the announce table. When back in the ring, Jimmy did get hit with a shooting star pressed, but he hadn't noticed that Jay had done the blind tag, so as soon as Rick was laying down there, Jay came off the top, he hit the brig splash, he got the 1, 2, 3, and that was a terrific finish. It also once again asked so many questions, what is going to happen now? Just you wait until the end of this thing. Rey Mysterio was then responding to Karrion Kross because he too was in that fatal 4-way along with Madcap Moss and Santos Escobar. I was cracking up with this because any kind of match of this ilk, Rey Mysterio just gets thrown in. Doesn't matter if he wins, doesn't matter if he loses. If there is a multi-person match and we need a fourth, somebody get Rey Mysterio on the phone and don't do a Jimmy Uso. We also then saw the Usos walking in the back with the brothers celebrating together, and Jimmy was so happy to see Jay when he said to him, "So, what up, Us? What you gonna do about the Bloodline?" Clearly Jay had no clue because he just walked off when Paul Heyman turned up, and he was all like, "Hey, was that your brother? What did he say about all of us?" And Jimmy kind of did shifty eyes and went, "Nothing. He didn't say anything at all." Whoops. All these moments are so damn good though, and everybody continues to carry every single one tremendously when the madness continued, because we got a big return. It began with Natalya, who had two things she wanted to talk about. One, she is in the Elimination Chamber, and two, Shayna Baszler broke her nose. That's why she's really happy she stopped Shayna getting into the thing, because she sees it as revenge. Because around about this time, she had said Shayna Baszler's name around about 91 times, out came Shayna. And this was mostly because Natty had called her a Ronda Rousey knockoff, and she was like, "Man, I'm sick of that. Do you not see my own achievements? Do you not see what I have done? I don't want anyone saying this no more." I actually agreed with her. As it is wrestling though, people kept dropping names, so all of a sudden Ronda Rousey had her big comeback to Friday nights, and this was absolutely stupid, because we pretended that she was going to get it into with Shayna Baszler, even though the last time we saw her, who was she friends with? Shayna Baszler. So she turned, she saw Natalya, they beat her up, when Shotzi, oh man, this firecracker, from the back went, "Well, I'm sure I can make the save," even though the wrestling mass was totally against her. And surprise, surprise, Shayna got whooped. However, the rumors out there are that Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey are going to come officially together as a team and go after the championships at WrestleMania, and I like that idea. We should have done it ages ago. I am giving it up. Right, who wants to cry? Me too. Because we were in the parking lot where it looked like Jey Uso was about to leave when who did he bump into? Sami Zayn. Sami talked about the fact that Roman is never going to forget what happened at the Rumble, but there is a way out for Jey Uso when he extended his fist and said, "Jay, I acknowledge you." I was like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up here. Zayn also talked about the fact that somehow and some way he will defeat Roman Reigns, and even though Jay acted like he wasn't going to do some fist bumping, eventually he did, and then he just walked off. Now I'm going to level with you. This was the worst thing they could have done, but in terms of getting me in the tum-tum, I am giving it an up. I could already see the writing on the wall. Maybe I'll just stop watching now. LA Knight also returned to SmackDown this evening. He wasn't happy, because Megan Morant basically found him and was going to ask about the pitch black match when he went, "No, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about Bray Wyatt. I don't want to talk about nothing." And he walked off. I was a bit like, all right then, hope you're okay. See you soon. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville versus Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan was after this, and honestly, I would have bet my life on the winner. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have done that because that would have been stupid. It's just a wrestling match. I don't want to die. And I actually thought it was all right. It didn't go that long. And in the beginning, Chelsea and Sonya were beating up Liv Morgan for a little while. It was just so we could do the usual hot tag stuff to get Raquel in there. At one point, she was hitting a bunch of fall-away slams and going, "Ha, look at me, I'm massive." Given Sonya had been ruined by this, she tagged in Green, who was like, "I don't want to get in there." Sounds like a terrible idea. But eventually she did. She got powerbombed. She got hit with the Oblivion when Raquel grabbed Morgan and powerbombed her onto Chelsea Green when they got the 3. I looked around and I was like, it was a bit unnecessary. I can't lie, however, I am just entertained by both Sonya Deville and by both Chelsea Green. I don't even know what they do. They just walk around moaning, but it tickles me. So hopefully we can do something with them going forward. Giving it up. Emma was then telling Madcap Moss in the back that he looked great. So Madcap Moss turned to Emma and said, "Well, I think you're pretty good looking too." Once again, don't get mad at me, I'm just recounting stuff. The point is, Madcap Moss is going to win that fatal 4-way later. So as ever, somebody is lying to us. We then had a Charlotte Flair interview with Michael Cole because she was going to address WrestleMania. And let's just keep it nice and simple. Rhea Ripley has to win. This was the focus of the whole thing too, as they talked about how 3 years ago at the granddaddy of them all, it was Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, and on that juncture, Rhea didn't have the experience, so Charlotte did away from her. And if you're saying, I bet they also mentioned the NXT title, no, they didn't. It was like a ghost. The point, however, is that a lot of time has passed, so maybe now Rhea Ripley is ready for the Queen, although Flair kind of like spat this off by going, no one's ready for me, no one's on my level. That's when I started shouting at my TV again. I swear, you're like the bad guy in this situation, and Rhea Ripley is the good guy. Doesn't make any sense. All that really matters, though, is that Rhea Ripley does walk away with the championship because 2023 has to be her year, and then all of a sudden giving Charlotte the SmackDown Women's title makes all the sense in the world. This should also be the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania, and I do like the fact we're shining a big spotlight on it, so for that reason I'm giving it up. And you ain't gonna believe this either, but the power of Emma compliments can steer you to victory. Because it was that 4-way to face Gunther next week on SmackDown for the Intercontinental Championship, as we did have Madcap Moss versus Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar versus Karrion Kross. And yeah, not in my wildest dreams did I have Moss down as winning, because he can't even get on the show most of the time, but he did. As soon as he had one, I was like, that poor boy, he's gonna be killed. Imperium are watching from afar as well, because of course they're scouting their competition. And of course, Karrion Kross and Rey Mysterio start things off because they hate each other. So on the other side of the ring, Moss and Santos went at it. This annoyed Karrion though, who went and got rid of Madcap, and when Escobar tried to get involved in his matters, he also got rid of him as well, because he was just so desperate to beat Rey Mysterio up, even though Rey beat him recently. It failed miserably because everyone came together to get rid of Karrion, and eventually what we basically did is have this standoff and this little thing between Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar, because that's essentially giving the people what they want. Mysterio got the better of that when he went for the 619, but this was when Kross was back, and all of a sudden, we were giving more stuff to Madcap Moss. I was just like, man, I thought you were in here some sort of patsy, but you kicking ass. So we all need Emma to say nice thing to us before we do have an important task, and at one point Santos Escobar had this great near fall after he hit the Phantom Driver, but Karrion Kross broke that up at 2.999. Ooh. It did look like Rey was going to get the best of this when he hit the 619 on Kross, but Scarlett then tripped him as Karrion just walloped him in the back of the head. But once Santos Escobar got rid of him, Madcap was like, oh, well, there's a prone masked man. He hit his big elbow, he got the 3, and I was pleasantly surprised, and this was quite fun. But again, he's going to be absolutely crushed by Gunther, but I'm still giving it up. And bless WWE as well, because they ended SmackDown this week with another angle, and I love it. Because we were back in the Bloodline locker room where Paul Heyman found Jimmy Uso. He had been on the phone talking to Roman Reigns. Now, he admitted that Jimmy was right in the sense that Jay did turn up, but the reason he's not able to talk to Roman in this dressing room is because you can't get a signal in here. And then he delivered another message to the Usos saying, I've chatted to the tribal chief, and we've decided we don't need you in Canada next week because you should probably watch that pay-per-view premium live event on the television, because when you do check things out on the TV, you get a totally different perspective. Now, of course, this could have been 100 things, or 2 specific ones. The first of which is everything about that phone. Maybe Jimmy never actually tried to call Jay. But also number 2, if you were watching SmackDown, as Roman Reigns was, of course, he would have seen Jay and Sami do this. So now everybody is going to be decapitated. So as ever, it is 10 out of 10 stuff, and I have no idea what's going to happen at the Elimination Chamber. I'm still convinced that Jey Uso is going to turn up and rejoin the Bloodline, but look at me. I've got all shrug emoji. This honestly was like a 35-second segment, but I do not give a flub. Giving it up. So I am so invested and take all of my money, and mostly because of the Bloodline stuff, the whole show is getting up, even though the rest of it was kind of just there. But I did have fun, and I did have a good time. That's all I can ever ask for. Maybe one day a full head of hair. Now please do leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of SmackDown. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And look, there's a video on the screen which is probably going to be an ups and downs video, maybe even from Raw, or maybe even Rampage, which I would appreciate it if you did check out. Then make sure you go to WhatCulture.com Just have a good day. That's what I want mostly. Go out into the world and go and absolutely smash it. See you soon.